Okay, my friends, this is going to be a shocker of biblical proportions. Now, let's start right from the beginning because this goes back to the creation of Earth and then all the things that happened from there. If you're not interested in that, you're in the wrong place. We're going to start from the beginning. And what was the beginning? Well, there was stories written by Hesiod, Ovid, all of these early Greeks. They called the Greco-Roman period, where the Greeks and the Romans, they had their own words for different things, like this. Deucalion in Greek is the same as Noah, all right, who was the son of Prometheus, the creator of humankind, king of Phthia in Thessaly and husband of Pyrrha. All right, so Deucalion, who is also Noah, wasn't just a guy sitting around on the block and they said, hey, why don't you go build a boat, we're going to have a flood. No, he was a big shot. He was the son of Prometheus, the creator of humankind. He was the king of Phthia in Thessaly and husband of Pyrrha. He was also the father of Helen, the mythical ancestor of the Hellenic race. This is not just a guy walking around in the woods. So he began the creation of humanity again. And here's the story of that. Now this is the ancient text. It says, Deucalion, who is Noah, and his wife gathered all the stones together. While they were walking, they threw the stones behind them without looking back. As from a miracle, the stones hit the earth and they were turned into humans. Well, my humans were turned into stones. But same sort of thing. Those thrown by Deucalion, who was Noah, became handsome men, and those thrown by Pyrrha became fair women. You know, good-looking chicks. Now that's the story. Now, I have gone so deep into this, it's hard to believe, but, well, everything here is hard to believe. But this is Apollodorus, the library of Apollodorus, who was one of the ancient writers. He wrote at the time of, I think, maybe 180 BC, something like that. 2nd century BC. And here he's writing about the sky was the first who ruled over the whole world, and having wetted the earth, he begat first 100-handed, as they are named. And then this is so detailed, it's absolutely amazing. But it's just too amazing to believe. It talks about the Cyclops as the giant, the sky was bound to Tartarus, and all of these, every single thing, you know, the ocean, all of them being creature-ish things. The Olympian gods, Apollo and Artemis, Demeter and Persephone. Here's the one right here that clinched it for me. It was War of the Giants and Typhon. Typhon is the giant it's the giant dragon. It describes him identical to what he is. Identical. 163 is it. Here it is right here. When the gods had overcome the giants, Earth was still more enraged, had intercourse with Tartarus, and brought forth Typhon, who is the giant. He was a hybrid between man and beast. In size, he surpassed all the offspring of Earth. As far as his thighs go, which you go and looking at it, and you'll see the thighs look sort of humanish. And it says, this is thighs. Very interesting thing to talk about. It was of human shape, and such prodigious bulk that he outtopped all the mountains. His head often brushed the stars. And that's true, because the size of that dragon, if he was standing up, he would be way above the space station. Now, I cannot account for this, how they got so big, and he's not just one of a kind. He may be one of a kind, but he's not just one. He's one of many giant creatures that were on this earth, which it appears that the earth is made of these giant creatures. There were giants in the earth in those days. And then after that, there was more giants after the sons of God went into the daughters of man. And then the whole thing fell apart. And then finally the flood was brought upon the earth from Jupiter, who is Zeus, to cleanse the earth of these giants. And then Noah was throwing rocks, creating people. A lot of thinking to do here. And I mean, it goes way beyond that. We got to go to Metamorphosis. Ovid was the one that put everything together. He was from the same date as Julius Caesar. He was born at the same, just about the same day Caesar died. And then he put all of these things together. And the first words out of his mouth about all of this stuff, he's got all these books, look at this. And he was considered to be as important as any religious text ever written, including the Old Testament at this time. He's the first words from him. He says metamorphosis, or the transformation, meaning from rocks to people, from people to mushrooms. Listen to this. Transformation, a unifying theme amongst the episodes of Metamorphosis, which is the complete compilation of everybody else's works all put together. Ovid raises the significance explicitly in the opening lines. In nova ferianimus mutatus decerias formos corpora. I intend to speak of forms changed into new entities. Now listen to this. Accompanying this theme is often violence inflicted upon a victim whose transformation becomes part of the natural landscape. These creatures are becoming part of the natural landscape. In the first words he says, this is what happened. This is how the earth was constructed of these creatures. The theme amalgamates the much explored opposition between the hunter and the hunted and the thematic tension between art and nature. This is very, very, very deep. And he's talking about these transformations. Listen to this. There's a great variety among the type of transformations that take place, from humans into inanimate objects like the Nile River and so forth, into constellations, into animals, from animals and ants and fungi and mushrooms into humans of sex of hyenas and colors and pebbles. And I mean, they can make anything out of anything they want because they control the particles. They were the alchemists, basically, and they were gods. Now, were they gods and they were just capable of manipulating matter, or were they actually creatures that had that capacity and then used it to make their lives extend forever? I don't know. All of this is just off the charts crazy. But the thing I am studying is these ancient mythologies, the ancient texts, the mysteries. Everybody's always a big mystery, big mystery. Nobody wants to solve the mystery. They just want to keep talking about mysteries. Well, I like to solve things. I like to get to the end. There is always a beginning, but there isn't always an end if you keep working on it. And these are the Gnostic texts. Now, I get a lot of people, oh, you can't look at that, you can't look at this, you can't look at that stuff. You got to just follow the Bible, and everything in the Bible is true. There's nothing that's wrong. We're sitting on pillars. We're stationary. The earth is flat. It has four corners. I get this stuff all the time. If you're going to believe this stuff, that's the only thing you can believe. Well, no, it isn't. You have to be able to think for yourself. Somebody wrote that. And then they didn't write it at the time these guys were writing. These guys were writing at the time of these events. Hesiod wrote in, where's Hesiod? I think I got, here he is. Yeah. He wrote The theogony concerns the origins of the world and of the gods, beginning with chaos, Gaia, Tartarus, Eurus, and shows a special interest in genealogy. And man, if you want to see genealogy, just read through Apollodorus. Apollodorus, starts right off with the birth of Zeus. And here's what it says right here. Sky was the first who ruled over the whole world, having wedded earth. And then it goes on to about the Cyclopses, about Tartarus, about Zeus, about all of the Titans, and how the father was eating the babies so he wouldn't be overtaken. It was foretold he would be overtaken by his son, and that's exactly what did happen. Anyway, it starts off the birth of Zeus, the war of the Titans, the Olympian gods, Apollo and Artemis, Demeter and Persephone, the war of the giants and Typhon, Prometheus, Deucalion. There's the Deucalion right here. This is deep. It's going to get extremely, extremely deep. And I don't know how to approach it, to be perfectly honest with you. This is not anything anybody ever accepted or could accept as being true until I discovered Typhon in the desert. And at that point I said, this is it. This is all got to be re-looked at in a completely new mud fossil way. There's no other way to approach this. Okay, you probably heard it say before that Prometheus was the father of mankind. Now, that's maybe yes, maybe no. Here's what they're saying. In some versions of the Prometheus myth, he is also credited with the creation of humanity from clay. Prometheus is known for his intelligence and for being a champion of mankind, also generally seen as the author of the human arts and sciences. He is sometimes presented as the father of Deucalion, who is Noah in the flood story. So that's what they're talking about, Prometheus. Now, what we need is to have a online forum where we can discuss this. This is very, very, very complicated. And where is it now? Well, Hesiod goes back to around 800 BC, something like that. And the Old Testament goes back to 1500 BC, or between that and 400 BC, somewhere in that area, but all basically about the same time as Hesiod, although maybe a little earlier. However, it is exactly in the time frame that Velikovsky talks about. 1500 BC was a great flood. That's when the great flood has, that's what Velikovsky said. Every culture on the face of the planet had the same story, 1500 BC, the great flood. Now, then there was different takes on how it ended up. Noah was one of them that, you know, if he was the son of Prometheus, he was tipped off and said, here, you're going to do this, and we'll preserve the good part of mankind and just wipe the rest out. And that's what Prometheus would have probably done. I don't know. I have no idea. But we need to do a lot of talking, because this was the Old Testament. Now, the New Testament came after the turn of the millennium, so it's after Jesus Christ, basically. And prior to that was the Old Testament, 1500 BC. And the same thing, exactly what Velikovsky said. That was when the Great Flood occurred. Okay, and one last point is that we want all points of view about the ancient past. I look at the Nag Hammadi text and Jesus Christ himself, who I believe now literally was the Son of God. Certainly a very serious messenger, because we all are sons or daughters of God. This is just the way it is. There's no, you can't get around that. So Jesus Christ was his only son. That's the key. That's the only key. Because we are all sons or daughters of Christ. And of God, basically. Oh boy. Okay, now I talk about all these ancient sources, all of them, and here's another one, the Nag Hammadi text. This was just discovered recently, 1945, right after they tried to slaughter the Jews. Very interesting. And this is Jesus' earliest documented sayings, and it was documented by the Gospel of Thomas. Thomas was doubting Thomas, and he was his scribe and wrote all the things he said. And the first thing he said, whoever discovers interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. Now, I don't think anybody is going to be able to understand all of these sayings. It's very, I certainly cannot. But he also says, those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel and will reign over all. After they have reigned, they will rest. Well, 56 and 80. Well, here's something about Mudfossil. What is this? Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing buried that will not be raised. Mud fossils. Here's more mud fossil discovered. Jesus said, don't lie and don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and there is nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed. Academia, what's this? As for you then, be on guard against the world. Prepare yourselves with great strength so the robbers can't find a way to get to you. For the trouble you expect will come. Let there be among you a person who understands. Anyway, here, speak up, what's this? Jesus said, what you will hear in your ear and the other ear proclaim from your rooftops. After all, no one lights a lamp and puts it under a basket, nor does one put it in a hidden place. Rather, one puts it on a lampstand, so that all who go will see its light. If a blind person leads a blind person, both of them fall into a hole. Anyway, 56 and 80 were the big ones. Now here's 56. Jesus said, whoever has come to know the world has discovered a carcass. And that's what the world is. It's a carcass of dead bodies. And whoever has discovered a carcass of that person, the world is not worthy. And here's number 80 right here. Jesus said, well, whoever has come to know the world has discovered the body. Yes. And now I've discovered the things in the body nobody's even ever known about. I'm serious. Interstitium is one of them. And there's other stuff, too, that it's just beyond the top. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it at this. Whoever has discovered the world has discovered a body. Whoever discovered the body of that one in the world is not worthy. And there's so much to these sayings you could never figure out. Nobody's going to figure it out. Do the best you can. That's all I'm showing. Now don't forget, Immanuel Velikovsky is my hero. He wrote Worlds in Collision. I wrote a book called Mudfossils and Velikovsky and Minds in Collision, because that's what happened. They destroyed him because their minds collided with reality. The academics could not take it. Absolutely couldn't take it. In 1950, they forced him to take the book back after it was on the top of the bestseller list for 11 weeks in a row. The publisher had to recall the book. Listen to this. Worlds in Collision. Here are the principal hypotheses in Worlds in Collision from 1950. The gods of many ancient cultures were represented in the sky by planets, comets, and stars. Greek authors such as Ptolemy and Homer described the birth of Athena, which was the planet Venus, as having sprung from the head of Zeus, which is the planet Jupiter. Thus, by a mechanism that Velikovsky did not explain, the planet Jupiter ejected the protoplanet Venus as a hot, fiery comet. This comet passed close to Earth around 1500 BC. There's your 1500 BC. And as was directly or indirectly responsible for the plagues of Egypt described in the biblical book of Exodus, material from the coma of this comet made the river Nile run red. Flies and scarabs fell from the comet onto Earth. Earthquakes destroyed Egyptian buildings. The sea parted, and the children of Israel wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. Manna rained down as carbohydrates from the comet's tail. And these are all the things that Velikovsky said happened. Now, I have taken a scientific examination of this, and I understand that I believe exactly he's correct, exactly what did happen. And that's what created the mud fossils, and that was 1500 BC. And that was quoted somewhere else in here, the time of Noah. All right, see, Velikovsky is right on board with the Old Testament from somewhere around 1500 BC, which was the time of the destruction of the earth. And Venus was literally born from the great red spot on Jupiter. And it may be ready to give another birth of another planet. That red spot has changed dramatically in the last few years, since 2019. I've been following it closely. Anyway, times they are changing, my friends. Okay, Jupiter literally gave birth to the planet Venus, who is spinning backwards. Now, the shape of Jupiter's great red spot is changing, and here is why. Well, they don't know why, and they admit that. Nobody knows why, but I have an explanation that I think makes sense. It says our solar system's most iconic storm is indubitably great, the great red spot, but exactly why it's any of those things is a mystery. Now, the new study published adds yet another piece to Jupiter's puzzle, and the winds in its outermost stretches are speeding up. The winds are speeding up, and its shape is changing, becoming less cigar-shaped and more circular. Well, what's happening? Let's look at the red spot. All right, the first thing I want you to see is this goes back to 1979. Voyager went really close and took this shot of the great red spot. And it shows that the planet is spinning in this direction, and the wind is hitting a mound here and spinning off to the side. That's what's going on. And that's why it spins off, because this is literally Venus Mons, a mound on Venus. And this was the shape in 1979. Now, it is changing dramatically since 2019, and they do not know why. All right, you see the shape of it now? It's not that big shape like this, and now it's actually trailing off this red. You see the red? They said slabs of red debris was coming off of this, and they thought it was breaking up and going to be completely disassembled. All right, here it is right here, and here's the explanation. It says amateurs were watching this happen, and they tipped off the experts, and the experts said initially there was speculation the flaking of bits off the side indicated the spot was disintegrating. But in research published in the Journal of Geophysical Letters, scientists said the event was not a sign the spot was falling apart. Instead, it was caused by a series of smaller storms drifting across the top of the red spot. So on top of that little red spot, they drifted, and they ripped off all these red big chunks, and it flowed off the top in a series of 6 days. Well, let's see what actually did happen. Okay, here's just a little bit of a warning. This is going to be a female body part in space in fairly large proportion. Be ready, you're ready. If you want to watch, watch. If you got kids you don't want them to watch, don't watch, because this is a vagina. And that is the giant red spot. Now, this was taken in 1979, and it was the shape of a normal vagina. All of the body parts of the vagina are here, including the attachment in the anal area, even where the hair follicles start to show up on the edge. Every single bit of this anatomy is exactly correct. You see that little flap there? That's exactly what is on where it attaches down to the anus. These are literally exactly what the hair pattern would be on the edge. All right, I mean, I don't want to freak you out, but I don't see how you can help but be freaked out. This is an attachment, a regular, it's a strap. It's a latch. You see this? This is the same sort of thing. All right, and what it does is it holds an organ or a body part into another body part. And in this case, it's holding the vagina, literally, into the buttocks with a flap just like that. And the lungs have them too. There's the same thing right there. That's the same strap. Same strap. Just like this. They all have it. It's called an interstitium now. And they just realized that was something that everything has to be held together with these straps, and that's where all the fluids go. This is the shape of the vagina, which is the great red spot back in 1979. And anatomically, it is absolutely identical. All right, and there's that spot right there that we're talking about, that little latch. And here's where the hair starts right around the edge, which I showed you that. This is called the Venus Mons, the mound of Venus. I didn't name it, they call it the Venus Mons. And it's swelling up, which means that the clouds are beginning to spin faster. And as it swells up, the reason it's swelling up is it appears to look like it's ready to give birth. Now you see what it looks like here. All right, the cigar shape. And here's what happened in 5 days. Back in 2019, it turned round like that, and it turned, you can see the little cervix, it looks like to me. And then it did this, and then it started sloughing big chunks of blood off of it. Red, look, see all the red stuff coming off? And they were saying, wow, look at all this red stuff, and it turned totally round right here. Now, what does that indicate to me? Well, it indicates to me that, first of all, it is swollen up like this. The mound has come swollen up like this. It's the same size as our Earth, basically, and the Earth would come out of there the same way. When it swole up, the clouds have to go faster as they go by it, because that's just the nature of the dynamics of these interactions with the clouds. All right, so here it is now. All right, it's spinning in this direction. So the planet's going that way, the clouds are coming this way. So they're impacting this mound. This was never a storm, it was just a mound. It's not swirling, it's the clouds are going past it and swirling away. That's all it is. Now, as it gets bigger, they have to go faster because it's pinching. This is a borderline up here. And that is the interaction of the zones of the central zone, the lower zone, and the upper zone as it's impacting through space. They create magnetic fields that separate each other. That's a whole nother issue, but I'm certainly willing to go there if somebody wants to. Now, this is what's happening now, is it turned completely round. The winds are going much faster, and it sloughed off a whole bunch of red blood. That I don't know how else you can take it other than it's getting ready to give birth. Now, this is one that's here on Earth. And this is a Tracian cave. This is cervix in the back. This right here is, I can't remember the name they call it, but it's where the blastula comes back together. They might call it a vegetal seam. I can't remember. But this little tiny seam right here is where the ball of the cells grows like this from the, and then it gets to a certain stage and it goes bloop inside and it wraps around, and that's what makes the cavity inside, and that's the seam. And when they dry out, they crack right on that. I think I called it the vegetal wall. Now look at this. This giant died giving birth, or was about to give birth. I believe that's the baby's face right there. And that's his arm. It comes up here, the shoulder was here. These little flakes that are coming around it here, that's because it's just pushed through the wall of the vagina. Over here, you see how nice and smooth it is? It's got the vagina ripples. That's the normal way the vagina is. But this one here is what they call a coffin birth, where the baby's being forced to be ejected through the easiest place to get out of, and it was there. This is his eyeball, his little chin, his nose, all that stuff. And there may even be another one here, I don't know. But this is what it is. These things are real, and it's time to take this into account. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to freak anybody out, but I think we should be having a deep discussion about what all these things of the past might have any meaning in the future. I mean, something's going on here, and I can tell you what, something deep is going on as far as I'm concerned. And if we just dismiss it because it's too hard to think about, well, that's just not the way I do things. So if you want to hang around here, that's the way we're going to have to do things.